What we're going to do today is go over the 21 Laws of Irrefutable Leadership. It's a book by John Maxwell. It's a classic. You've probably heard of it before. I'm not going to go over all 21 laws. We're just going to hit on 7. And I recently read this book with some other youth pastors, and it was really helpful. So the first law that we're going to talk about is the law of the lid. And this law is the idea that leadership determines the level of effectiveness. So John Maxwell uses an illustration like if you have a leader who's here on the scale, he can only lead other people up to right underneath where he's at. This teaches us that the most effective thing you can do in leadership is grow in your own personal leadership of yourself and your own personal areas in your workplace, because then other people who are other good leaders can still lead underneath you, because people that are better leaders than you tend to be frustrated when you lead them. And obviously people can be frustrated about a lot of things, and they can be frustrated because they're not very considerate. But one thing that they can be frustrated about is your leadership ability. So continue to grow as a leader. And if you're always growing as a leader, you can lead most people because you're always going to be growing. And then after you do that for a long time, you're a very high level leader, and pretty much anybody else, because there's not that many people as good of a leader as you are, they can be where they can serve wherever you're serving, or they can work underneath you because you lead them well. So that would be something that I would love to be able to be one day, long time down the road. But that is a key truth. The law of the lid. Whatever level leader you are, and as good as you are in whatever you do, that's going to be the lid that other people usually aren't going to go past. The second law is the law of the inner circle. This states that those closest to you, they determine the level of your success. So you could think about, I say this when I'm teaching the students in the youth group, you pick your 5 closest friends, and that's probably 99% of the time going to be who you are in the future, because those are who you're putting to influence you. And he uses an illustration of a chain, saying like the weakest link in the chain determines the strength of all the others. And the way that you are as a leader, the people that you have on your inner circle influencing you, that's going to determine how strong that you are going to be as a leader and the way that you lead other people. So the third law is the law of influence. This law says that true leadership is influence, and he says nothing more and nothing less. And he talks about how a lot of people think that leadership is a title, but he gives different illustrations of examples where the leader in an organization is not necessarily the person who has the say, because it's the people who influence. And that's really comforting from any position, because then if you don't have a position, that it's not about that. It's about the way that you lead yourself, the way that you can love other people and influence them and help them get to where they want to get. And it's not about what title you have. And this is also good if you have a title, because you haven't arrived just because you have a title. Just because you have a lot of responsibility and you have a title that says that you're all that, doesn't mean you're that good of a leader. The way that you lead, it depends on how you influence other people. And generally the people that move up and move on did figure out how to influence people. But that's really interesting to me. He goes through the different levels of being a leader. He says the lowest level is a position. That's level number 1. People follow you because they have to. And the second level is permission, which is like moving on to relationships where people follow you because they want to. So they had to, but now they want to as you become a better leader. And then I'm going to skip to the 4th level, which is people. So he says people follow you because of reproduction, because you have done for them what they couldn't do for themselves, because you whether it was a vision or whether you help them brainstorm where they want to go and then you help them get to that point. People follow you not because they have to, not even because they want to, but because you can do something for them that they can't necessarily do for themselves. And then the top level, he calls it person. He says people follow you because they respect you because you have done it over and over again. So not just because you have a position, not just because you can help them, not just because help them do something they couldn't do on their own, but because you have done all those things over and over again, and you've helped people get to where they wanted to get in life and work. And people that are the really great leaders, they go past leading for just in the workplace. They help people develop even in their own personal lives. And that's inefficient. That takes time. And when you lead that way, you lead people and you do it over and over again, people follow you. That's the law of influence. And the 4th law, remember we're doing 7 laws. The 4th law is the law of magnetism. This law says that who you are is who you attract. And if you say, I want to attract young, ambitious, healthy, whatever, you fill in the blank, you want to attract these kinds of people, you need to be that kind of a person. Instead of saying, man, I just can't find the right kind of people, instead of putting all your energy towards, I can't, say, you know what, I'm going to fix myself in these areas. I'm going to become what I need to become so that I'm going to attract like people who care about those same things. He also says that your own personal life mission attracts people, your priority, your values, your background, and your attitude. I really like that one, attitude. If you always have a bad attitude, you're not going to attract someone who has a good attitude. They don't want to be around you because exactly that, they have a good attitude. So that's the law of magnetism. The fifth law we're going to go over is the law of respect. He says that people naturally follow leaders who are stronger than themselves. So the law of the lid is like people can't really get past you naturally. I mean, they can in some cases, but for the most part, they can't. And then the law of respect is talking about the fact that you're probably not going to lead anybody who is a better leader than you. It is, again, these are general, there are exceptions to these rules, but he says when people respect you as a person, they admire you. When they respect you as a friend, they love you. And when they respect you as a leader, they follow you. Generally speaking, you're not going to be able to lead people that are a higher level leader than you, or there's going to be a lot of frustration if that is the case, if that situation arises, unless they're both really high level leaders, because then you understand, okay, I need to submit to what they want to do, and I need to use their vision, and that needs to become my vision. So at a certain level in leadership, it's not really as much of a factor, but the law of respect, you need to keep growing as a leader so that you can continue to lead better and better leaders in the other areas. Sixth law is the law of priorities. This law says that leaders understand that activity is not accomplishment. And that's just such a good thing to get in our heads, because as people, we like to follow this false productivity society saying, which is busy is productive. That's not true. Busy is not productive. Intentional and like planning, that is productive. So a lot of people, and especially post-COVID, I was listening to something to this week talking about that, how technology has changed, work has changed, and it's really important to understand that just because you're doing something doesn't mean it's necessarily helpful. He talks about the 80-20 principle in this law and says that in life, the top two things you do tend to get 80% of the results, and then 80% of the things you do tend to get only 20% of the results. This is just a good thing to think about. I don't think it's healthy to just cut everything out that's not the top two. I mean, unless you're running a business and you're only trying to make money, like that makes sense. But for me, I'm a youth pastor, so I'm not going to cut out the 80% of the things that don't necessarily move the needle, because that might be something that really is helping another person. So it's different depending on your job, but it is helpful to look at what can I do, and then if I don't need to be doing it, what can I delegate, or what can I train someone else to help them do. And training is inefficient because it's harder to train somebody, but then over the long term, like at least for myself in ministry, then they get to experience some of the spiritual rewards in that thing that you could be doing. They get to experience the spiritual reward, but then get to long-term alleviate you, not to be lazy, but then you can focus on other things. That way, more is getting done for the kingdom. So law number 7, and the last law we're going to talk about, is the law of navigation. This law says that anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. I like to think about the illustration that I think it's in Stephen Covey's book. There's a difference between leaders and managers. It's like managers go and they're like chopping down the trees, and then leaders stand back and they can see, oh, that's the wrong forest, and they yell, wrong forest. And then all the managers are like, but we're making so much progress, and they're like mad at the leaders. It's like a cool thing to think about. But when it comes to navigation, the leader is someone who's going to see farther than other people see. He's going to see more detailed than other people see in the different areas. And if you're not able to chart the course, then you're not going to be the kind of leader that you need to be. So this involves not getting caught up in the day-to-day and getting bogged down. And this is difficult, but you have to step out of the day-to-day activities and look at big picture, okay? Where are we going big picture, not just what are we doing today? And this is another reason that the false productivity, like society saying busy is productive, busy is not productive, because you can't step out and see vision if you're just super busy, constantly like not being able to focus on long term. And if you're going to focus on long term, it takes taking a step back, being able to slow down a little bit, being able to think. It's a lot of times we don't spend much time just thinking today because there's so much noise between music and between conversations. Conversations are good, music is good, but like you can have your whole day taken up by things not allowing you to think. So the law of navigation says, learn how to see outside of just the day-to-day, learn how to see the big picture, and you'll be able to lead other people. And not everyone has to be able to be the leader. Like if everyone was the leader, you'd be going in a bunch of different directions. But if one person can be the leader, step outside of the day-to-day, have the vision, the long-term vision, then when they meet up with the other people that are working for them or working with them, you can give that vision to align the day-to-day so that the people that are thinking just in that day, they can be doing what they need to be doing. In the law of navigation, John Maxwell says that if you plan, that's the way to win. And the plan is an acronym for predetermine your course of action, lay out your goals, adjust your goals, and notify key personnel. Follow that method and you'll be able to lead. You'll be able to have the vision that you need to have. Follow that plan and you'll be able to lead the people that you need to while having the long-term vision and not getting caught up in the only today. So guys, I hope this was helpful. These are the 7 laws of the 21 laws of leadership. John Maxwell is a great leadership author. You can go and read any of his material at any other point. He's got a lot of good stuff out there. So I encourage you to go learn some more and be the leader. Don't be a lid. We'll see you guys.